You're listening to the Career Plus Life Catch-Up, episode number 45. Welcome to the Career Plus Life Catch-Up, a show anchored in reality to help you create a balanced life where you enjoy both your work and your life, because you don't have to choose. I am your host, Cecile Ferry, a corporate executive turned coach and working mom. This is your place for insights, advice, and tools to optimize your career direction, balance, and confidence. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get into it. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the podcast this week. How are you feeling? Here it is a week of excitement because we are finally coming out of lockdown. So school is going back. And I was just thinking, I'm recording this now, but then maybe you're listening to this in 2022, maybe in 2023, and you're like, what is the deal with these lockdowns? And I really hope so, that we get to the future, to a place where those things are really a thing of the past. But this is what's new this week, and that made me think, what do I want to do with my life now that I have all those options and choices? And frankly, nearly it was suddenly like an overwhelm with too much to do. So what was good this weekend, I just sat down and I made a list of all the things that I really have missed, all the things that really truly matter to me, the things that will make the biggest difference in my fulfillment, in my energy, and my enjoyment, my pleasure in life. So maybe this is a good exercise for you to do this week, lockdown or not, to get that clarity about the things, because otherwise we then get distracted or we get pulled by all those distractions or any new shiny things that comes our way. So wherever you are at in the world, I really hope that you've got some exciting things to look forward to over the next few weeks. Today, I want to talk about the past. I want to share with you a way to see your past that is probably quite different from the general knowledge and what you've been taught so far, because it's something that I see with everybody, with my clients, and people come to me with very specific stories about their past. And I think a lot of us spend time retelling our stories to our friends, our families, our colleagues, and to ourselves. And the thing is, the story that we like to tell the most, or those stories, are often those of hardship or challenges. Because let's face it, we don't often really like to brag. We don't like to pump our tires. We don't really talk that much about the great things. We talk about what's not going so well, what hasn't gone so well. But also, we have a hard time, as we talk about those things, we have a hard time coming to terms with those stories and to let them go. And often we think by bringing them back up, by sharing them, by talking about them, it is a way to prevent ourselves from future bad hardship, future bad challenges. And that way we stay aware, and it is kind of protecting us. But today I want to open up the can of the past and of your past, because I want you to see it in a different light. I want you to change that behavior of bringing to the present the same stories, especially not so positive stories. Why? Because it affects your reality today and therefore your future reality. And also because by going through this new way of seeing your past, it will show you the power of your thinking. The story of our past is actually a fantastic opportunity to self-coach and to develop new awareness. I'm not saying dwell in the past too much or for too long, but dwell in it consciously. So you might be having your own stories about your past, those well-practiced, well-rehearsed stories. And you really believe in them to the point that they define why you're here today and they define the choices that you make. Yes, to some extent, but what I want to show you today is that your mind has a special way of telling your past, and you can change that. You can change the story. You can make it focus on other bits that your mind currently isn't focusing on. How cool is that? And this will change your whole perspective, and it will change your life in the future. Are you intrigued? Let's get into it. first, let me talk to you a little bit about this concept of rewriting your past. Like, what is this, Cecile? It is about choosing the story of our past. Surely the past is the past, and you cannot undo any of it. Absolutely. I won't be arguing that. I'm not here to preach any kind of denial of what happened. Not at all. Or to sugarcoat it and to say that everything was in your best interest. That is not what this episode is about. Rather, it is about taking a huge deep look into all corners of our past and realize which story you had chosen so far and triage all this past information to decide which story you want to continue to tell. We have that choice, my friends, every single one of you. So let me start with the foundational truth. The past is done, but the way you talk about it brings it into the present. In other words, your actual past is over, but the story of your past isn't over. How you think about it brings it into today's reality and shapes up your experience today. The past events don't affect you as such, but the way you think about them does affect you right now. You can feel emotions right now about something that happened to you 10 years, 20, 30 years ago. So let's start here. If I ask you to tell me the story of your past right now, what would you say? Maybe you need to pause this podcast and write it down. Think about it aloud in your head. What is your past? How would you describe it? How would you tell? Who is there? Where is it? What happens? What are you doing? What is your version of your past? Very good first reflection to have about yourself. If you had to tell your past, where would you start? What would be the middle of the story? And what would be the end? Next question. What do you make it mean about yourself? About your life? About your options, your opportunities? This is a great question to become aware of the stories about what you can or can't do in life based on your past. The things that you would never do again, or the things that you never want to try again. Notice if you feel any pain today about something that happened in the past. You see, our brains typically zero in or focus on those painful moments and attach an emotional charge to it that is likely to last probably until today. And what is important is to understand what meaning or story you've attached to that past memory. And I'm talking here, it could be anything as far as memories could be. Past work issues, redundancies, clashes, relationship breakups, losses of something that you've worked for, built, relocation, health issues. Like, we all had them in our past. Those stories basically where something went wrong. Every client that comes to me starts with their version of the past. I always listen to their story. Their journey with studies, in jobs, and family events, relocations, changes, and quitting, being promoted. And then consciously, or often as it is the case, unconsciously, they let those events shape up their thinking about what's possible for them today and into the future. And they sometimes even base their identity on what happened to them. So let's look at some of those thoughts that we might pick up based on our past. Some examples for you. I am no good at X, Y, and Z. Just because we tried at the time and in the past and it didn't work. So we just adopted that belief. Or I'm limited in what I can aim for or in what I can achieve. Or I'm limited in how much money I can make. I need security against this happening again. Working hard doesn't pay off. That was one of mine. People can't be trusted. The workplace is full of evil people and bullies. I shouldn't speak up. I am not supported. I wasn't supported. I wasted my time doing so. Or because of XYZ, now I can't, so on and so forth. These are examples. And also as far as our reactions go to those stories, we can have a lot of thought about what should have happened. I shouldn't have done that. These people should have treated me differently. My childhood, my upbringing should have been better. The circumstances should have been different. We spend a lot of time arguing with our past. We're replaying it in our heads with a view to change it. Except we can't. Any kind of thinking like this serves no purpose except to torture us right all the way to the present. And it can bring up a lot of anxiety to us today, just the way we choose to see it. So is there something in your past professional or personal life that you are still arguing with in your head? Is it still something you are thinking some shit about? You wish things had been different? You cannot change things. The past is done, and the past should have been exactly as the past was, because arguing against that makes no sense. How do we know? It's because it's what happened. So it should have been exactly as it was, period. So the right thinking to have is to accept what happened as it happened. Then to tell yourself when you get there, now what? If you can get yourself to the now what, you are on the right path, my friend. If you can get yourself to that place, you will be able to see the other side of the story. The side that was shadowed by all the suffering, the rejection of what happened, of all the discomfort you had around it. The shame maybe, or the guilt, the regret. When you let this all sit with you, you'll be able to think about the past with a different angle. You'll be able to see new meaning. And that is what I want today's podcast to be about. I want to open up that door and move from a place of rehashing a negative story into a place of acceptance and seeing the benefits, the lessons of what happened from a place of strength and power. To move from being a victim of your past into the owner of your life, all parts of it. So I have 2 exercises to suggest to you to help you choose the story of your past and to help you play around with this concept of changing the meaning and the feelings associated with your past. The first exercise is about telling your whole life story so far. And I want you to do it in 2 different ways. The first way I want you to do it is to recount all the things that happened that didn't go well. The horrible things, the problems, the struggles, the aches, the pain, all the negative bits. Go for it. Write it all. It's like as if you're telling the worst side of your life story. Secondly, I want you to write it from the perspective of all the things that went well, all the things that were perfect and amazing. And trust me, you'll find bits from both sides that have happened in your life. I guarantee you. So I did this exercise myself a few weeks ago. I did it on a piece of paper. I drew down a line right in the middle. And then in each column, I wrote the positive events in my life in one, and in the other, the negative ones, or those that I perceive still to today as negative, to be absolutely correct. So I did that exercise and I found it so powerful to see the 2 aspects of my past and the 2 different ways I could look at it. To help you really fully grasp this concept about our ability to choose the story of our past, I'm going to share with you my 2 stories in full vulnerability and transparency. Now I'm going to talk to you about my own personal life and my journey. It will help illustrate super concretely what I'm talking about here. So here we go. Let me start first with story number 1, with all my negative events. I grew up in a family of 6 children. My dad was always working hard to earn enough to feed us, take us on holidays, or pay for our studies. So he was never there, always tired and stressed. I was left to my own devices as my mom was always busy with the household duties, and I was the only girl, so not into anything my brothers were doing. I was always the good girl, focusing on my studies, under a lot of pressure to have A's in everything. I had very few friends or fun on the agenda. My hobbies were about excelling again, so usually a source of anxiety. I fainted a lot in my childhood and I was regularly sick. I missed 3 months of class in year 12 and lost 15 kilos after a serious condition. I worked like crazy during my undergraduate years, but failed every single exam to the best business schools in France. I got into drinking and experienced a lot of rejections with boyfriends. After I arrived in Australia, I found a job to get a visa where I was completely exploited, underpaid, and overworked. I had terrible flatmates who bullied me and led me to move out. I got into a relationship where there was codependency, depression, and I was miserable. I broke up and spent 2 years on my own, unable to move on. At the time, my company shut down, so I lost my job and I had bad health issues. After I went back with my partner, I spent years in a dysfunctional relationship and didn't get married. My partner had heart surgery as I had a 1-year-old, no family, and just moved into a new home. Later, after years of overload and poor health, I experienced burnout. I had to quit my corporate job and lost all my savings and my car. I started a business but had no paying clients for months, creating a lot of anxiety. My partner's brother died unexpectedly, which shook us all for over a year. After the pandemic erupted, I broke up with my long-term partner, had to manage the sale of our house, the move and relocation, all on my own with no help. I spent 2021 alone as a single mom with months of lockdown, a very emotional child, and no family support. I've not had a holiday or seen my family in over 2 years. So there you go, right? This is story number 1. Doesn't feel uplifting, but these are all facts that took place in my life. If you like, it's one version of my past. Now let me tell you story number 2, which is the other side, the positive one. I always had intellectual abilities that allowed me to fly through school with the highest results for no much effort. I got into classes where I was studying music at an advanced level on top of academic studies. I played the piano, the violin, sang in a choir during lots of concerts, and was even a piano teacher by the age of 15. I was passionate about fragrances and luxury goods and ended up working in my favorite field, first as a student in Grasse, the French capital of perfumes, then later at my dream job at Hermès in Paris. I got the one spot at my university to go to Melbourne on exchange and spent months freely traveling this beautiful country with amazing friends. Later, I got sponsored to stay in Melbourne and I got a job in my passion field again, with a visa, a car, and a nice home. I enjoy high-paying corporate jobs, allowing to buy whatever I wanted for myself and go on beautiful European holidays every year. I was dining out in the best places, work for high-profile brands, enjoying premium, glamorous events, perks, and good money. I fell pregnant easily, had an amazing, perfect pregnancy, and a beautiful, healthy little girl. I took a year off work, went overseas for 3 months to enjoy my family and friends, and got back into a part-time job I created myself. I fell into personal development, hired my dream coach, and landed on my new career direction. I got qualified as a coach, launched my own business, and started helping women from all horizons with their careers. I found the perfect part-time job to complement my business. I enjoy flexibility, amazing balance in my weeks, and still amazing holidays in the south of France. I celebrated my 40th birthday surrounded by all my close friends right before the pandemic erupted. And I found the most perfect place to live on my own after my separation. My daughter goes to a bilingual school. I have a big community of French friends around me, host a podcast, work as a coach for several panels, and my business is continuously growing. So see how this version feels, right? And I guarantee you all of this is true too. And that's the thing. Both versions of my past are totally accurate. Everything I've told you here has happened. I'm not talking about interpretation here. These are facts. These are events. So the learnings go like this here. We all have good and bad in our past. So go and do the exercise and tell yourself both sides of your story and see maybe which side you tend to dwell on more, which side your mind is focusing on, especially when you're talking to people. Second learning is we get to choose how we want to retell the past today and how we want to think about it. So I can sit here thinking of all the hardships, the story I told you, the failures, the pandemic, all of that. Or I can decide to focus on what feels good, empowering, and all the amazing experiences I've been gifted to have. On the one hand, I can feel regret or pain or sorrow, or I can feel gratitude and awe for everything that has come into my life. So see for yourself if you have a tendency to maybe be in one column rather than the other, or if you forget what is in the other column, or if you make your past story about what didn't happen, what went wrong, or if you make it about what came about and what you got to experience. This takes perspective, but it's an amazing gift to give to yourself anytime now. So the thing in doing this exercise, once you see the two sides of your story, you can pick and choose what you want to bring into your story today as you retell your past. I'm not saying you deny what happened, but you choose what you want to think about, what you want to talk about, who you want to be today based on that past. So I can go through all those two stories I gave you, and I can choose the hard stories because they taught me lessons, they made me who I am today. I'm not saying let's just scrap all the negative, but I can pick and choose those ones and decide for some others I'm just not going to attach meaning to them. They just happen. And then I can choose to pick and retell all of the positive ones that happen and focus every day on those in order to move forward. So by thinking of your past life differently, you give yourself the openness to new and even better things into your future. You shift out of victim to leader of your life. It's not to say the bad things didn't happen, but they didn't define you. You may have scars. We all have them, but you don't focus on them. You focus on the bigger picture and what you're proud of and what you created. And that is a way better energy to plan your future. So we all have a past, but we need to make it work to our advantage in creating the right fuel to keep moving forward. So the second exercise you can do about choosing your past is to take a specific memory or event in your past where you have a negative story. The more emotionally charged today, the better. If it is a traumatic event, it might be better for you to do that whilst being supported by someone who is specially trained in trauma. So took one example where you believe someone hurt you in the past, or where there is a negative experience you want to change, or maybe something you still regret to today. Write down what is the current story you have in your head about it. What would you say to someone if you were to tell the story? Write down all the thoughts, the meaning, and how this possibly plays out for you today. Then next, write down the facts of this event or situation. Only the facts. Use the exact words, what was said or done. Taking away any additional commentary or analysis or your judgment of the situation. As if someone just witnessed it as a fly on the wall. Next up, write what is the story you want to tell yourself about what this event means. I'm not saying changing the actual event, nobody can, but the different meaning you want to attach to it versus what you have currently made it mean. Sometimes it helps to ask yourself, how would you tell the story from another person's perspective, or the perspective specifically of the person who you feel has hurt you? What might have they been thinking when they did that? How old were they? What were their struggles and frustrations they might have been trying to accommodate? Or if you had regret about something, how can you retell the story in a way that doesn't bring up that feeling of regret? And finally, write down what you can keep from this event that is beneficial and what you can let go of. Let me give you an example of this exercise. I had a terrible manager in the job who acted like a bully and took credit of my work. I resigned because I couldn't stand working for her anymore. The day I was due to have a farewell lunch for my departure, she made me stay in the office to finish some work, and she went to my farewell. That was the ultimate humiliation. My story was, she was a bitch and terribly hurt me. I felt this for years later, and I was literally dreading to bump into her at an event somewhere. The facts were, she told me, I can't go to lunch. I need to finish my handover list. The story I chose to tell myself later, as I did this work and I started thinking about the other version that I wanted to choose, was that she was very stressed because she lost her best working employee. She was devastated to have to do the work herself and lacked emotional skills like empathy as a leader. She most likely needed a coach to help her in being a better manager. So my feelings changed from anger and resentment to feeling sorry for her and to feel peace that I had done a good job. What I could let go of was missing out on my farewell lunch and my anger, which achieved nothing in the present reality. And what I could keep was always to treat my staff in a friendly and empathic manner when they left, no matter the impact on me. Be the example you want to see. No external event can make you feel one specific set way that you cannot change forever. You get to choose how you want to feel about the story, about the facts that happen. You can rewrite the story you're telling yourself as something that feels good, freeing, opening, and empowering. So over to you to list a couple of those incidents or scenarios or events that you want to work on. You want to see in a different light and choose a different version of the story. It is super powerful self-coaching, and I commend you in advance for doing it. It will set you free. And I do this with every career coaching client because I know otherwise we cannot move on. And they cannot choose the most uplifting, empowering version of their future if they hold on to a negative story about their past. We tend to do this because being a victim paradoxically serves us. We don't have to move forward. We don't have to take risks again. We won't fail. And often we do fit in quite well with people as we join the chorus of people who talk about negative things in their lives. We don't stand out with positive news. We have, like everyone, a lot of worries too, and that's easier from a social acceptance point of view. It's easier to fit in that way rather than being the positive one, the cheerful one who is optimistic, right? And we get sympathy that way, we get attention and we feel supported. But you don't need to stay in this place to get support and good things in your life. You will get way more from a place of empowerment. And empowerment is an internal feeling. That way, it's not something you're waiting on other people to give to you. So thank you for traveling down memory lane with me. I hope by now you've learned new things about how to see your path. And I'm going to leave you with the 3 key takeaways from today's episode. Takeaway number 1. The events that took place in your past cannot be changed, but your story about them can. This in turn positively affects how your future unfolds because it is based on how you are thinking and feeling today. Takeaway number 2. The best techniques to choose the story of your past is to look at your whole life from both positive and negative perspectives and choose the bits you want to keep. And the other exercise is to look at a specific event and coaching yourself to change the meaning of it. Takeaway number 3. You own how you feel about your past today. The events themselves don't own you, don't define you. You can do things that are vastly different from your past and be a different person no matter what happened prior. How cool is that? So if you are in a place where you're struggling to shake something negative in your career or in your life, coaching will be perfect for you. It will shift your thinking and unblock new avenues for you, meaning you're going to access new and better experiences. So don't just sit there wallowing in the past, if that is you, and reach out for some help to start seeing things differently and create new experiences for yourself. Thank you for listening, my friend. I highly recommend you do some or all of this work about your past, as it will give you wings you didn't know you had. Have a beautiful week. Enjoy the freedom if you're in Melbourne, and I'll speak with you soon. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to find out more information, you can visit my website at careercatchup.com. There you will find blog articles, free resources, a self-study course for your career direction, and ways to work with me. It's at careercatchup.com. I hope to continue to connect with you and support you. Talk to you soon.